How are you there? Let's talk about the SADC Observer Mission Report and the SADC Summit recently held yesterday in Angola. There is a few things that we need to clarify lest people get carried away with things that are not there. First of all, SADC is not Washington. The SADC region is not like the United States of America. SADC countries are not states that are governed by this supernatural, this supranational organ called SADC. No, we are just a group of countries that come together and discuss regional issues and help where they can. SADC does not have the authority, power, or mandate to bring about fresh elections in Zimbabwe or to change the presidency of Zimbabwe. The best that they can do for Zimbabweans that have got a grievance with the elections is to declare that the elections were not were not free and fair. I mean, even if they declare the elections not free and fair, it does not mean that they have got the power to force Mnangagwa and ZANU-PF to hold fresh elections. That mandate lies within the Zimbabweans themselves. And by the way, yesterday, if you read the notes of the SADC meeting, it says that the issue of Zimbabwe was noted. They discuss many other issues, including the war in DRC extensively. But when it comes to Zimbabwe, they say that they noted the report from Zimbabwe. And also in the same line, they also included elections from Swaziland, meaning they're not shedding light in whether they accept the report or not, or what are the actions on the report. Since Mnangagwa was there in the meeting, he might have been very influential in bringing the issue of, in at least suppressing the issue of Zimbabwe, and also perhaps South Africa as well. As you know that Mnangagwa's biggest ally in this season is Cyril Ramaphosa. They too might have put in their weight in trying to suppress issues pertaining the politics in Zimbabwe. But it is amazing what I see on the media, that opposition medias is rallying up people, telling people that the SADC report, or rather, they're rallying up people that the SADC meeting ended with an agreement that the vote in Zimbabwe were not free and fair. That's not entirely true. That is not, that's what the opposition media, or people that support the triple C are saying. It is misleading, it is dangerous. And the danger that I see in most of these journalists, online journalists, is that they report to make Zimbabweans believe that SADC has got power in Zimbabwe. SADC does not have power. All right. Even if they say the results were not free and fair, they cannot force ZANU-PF. What SADC can do as nations, okay, the nations in the region, they can impose sanctions on ZANU-PF. That's a very drastic measure, though. That is what they can do as individual nations. All right. And those sanctions might, in those sanctions, they might attach a statement that says that if we do not hold free and fair elections, we will keep the SADC sanctions intact. Or anything else that is similar to sanctions, whether it trade embargoes, that really would be a trade war or a political warfare between Zimbabwe government and SADC government, not SADC itself really coming as a big brother and saying, you must do this, you must do that. No, they only play an intermediary role. And whatever power that they have it as nations. They can impose sanctions, which is something which I don't think they would do, but it is a possibility. It is something that is at their disposal. But I don't think they will do it, because for them to do that, there will need to be uh, something of stake or something that they might want in Zimbabwe. I don't think that the SADC region looks at Zimbabwe's situation as a catastrophe in SADC to warrant sanctions on Zimbabwe. We're talking about countries that are talking to the United States to try to remove sanctions, ZANU-PF sanctions, even though ZANU-PF is not improved at all. So the reason why I'm saying this is I do not want to excite people with things that are not there. Most of the opposition media is lying to people because they make people believe that SADC uh, has got authority on Zimbabwe. It does not have. What it has is that it has got this strong voice and their national powers to impose sanctions on Zimbabwe, but that would be a drastic move, which I do not think that they will be able to, that they can stomach at the moment. And if SADC has to put sanctions on Zimbabwe, with if SADC has to put demands on Zimbabwe that have got sanctions attached to it, you must know that another fellow that benefits from Zimbabwe severely is Cyril Ramaphosa. South Africa has got massive economic ties with Zimbabwe, benefits that accrue with ZANU-PF being in power. So I don't think that SADC countries do have the economic muscle to fight South Africa on the Zimbabwean issue. Because Zimbabwe now is becoming a colony of the ANC. Slowly but surely, we are now colonized by the ANC together with ZANU-PF. So for SADC to fight for us in that way, there really needs to be a push factor from the SADC countries, of which I do not see. Most of the Zimbabweans that leave Zimbabwe come to South Africa. South Africa, who should be the country complaining about the situation in Zimbabwe. South Africa should be the country that is fixing Zimbabwe. Unfortunately, the ANC benefits from a broken Zimbabwe. So Cyril Ramaphosa does not have an incentive to fix Zimbabwe because as the comrades eat together, as Zimbabwe goes down the drain, that's how it's like. So SADC has got very limited options. But however, they do have that option of pushing ZANU-PF, even putting economic sanctions on ZANU-PF. Even if South Africa does not want, in that case, South Africa will have to come up with reasons as to why SADC should not put sanctions on ZANU-PF. And remember that when I talk about South Africa, I'm talking about individuals within the ANC who are making money from Zimbabwe. So those individuals have got a lot of power in South African government. So they will use the powers of the South African government to keep Zimbabwe where it is, to keep Mnangagwa in power. But if there is a breakthrough within that ANC, because not, as I say, that it's a few people in the ANC who are benefiting. If the other comrades in the ANC might read the picture differently. For example, if the other comrades in the ANC recognize that the presence of Zimbabweans in South Africa is a problem for the social fabric, social cohesion in South Africa, and might be an impediment in their attempt to win next year's elections, they might view a better Zimbabwe, which is tied with massive number of Zimbabweans in South Africa going back to Zimbabwe. Those ANC members might overpower Ramaphosa's political and economic interests in Harare by making a move, forcing South Africa to participate together with other SADC states to push Harare into acting. And that pushing of Harare has to involve something similar to sanctions. It could be full-blown sanctions, or it could be a demand with attached with some punishment of some sort. Yes, they can punish Harare because as individual countries they do have that kind of leverage, whether it's economic embargoes, trade embargoes, or whatever it is that they deem fit, whatever they feel would hurt ZANU-PF financially or politically. SADC has got that muscle. So now the onus will be on the other comrades of the ANC. What do they value more? Do they value an ANC victory next year when they are able to get Zimbabweans out of South Africa? He says that this is a political victory for ANC if they're able to secure a free Zimbabwe that will leading to foreigners, mostly Zimbabwean foreigners in South Africa going back to Zimbabwe. Black South Africans are going to like that move. And if ANC owns that, Black South Africans are most likely to vote for the ANC because they will see the ANC is addressing this problem of undocumented foreigners or this large influx of foreigners in South Africa, especially Zimbabweans. So you see, there is that group of the people in the ANC who do not, maybe who don't have an economic ties with Zimbabwe. They might feel that uh, following this strategy might be good for the ANC winning elections next year. But the other comrades in the ANC who have got economic interests in Zimbabwe, those that ZANU-PF has given mines and farms and for the purposes of keeping ZANU-PF in power, they would want to stick with their old guy, Itim Nangawa. They will be fighting with the other guys in the ANC. So you are going to see an internal battle within the ANC over Zimbabwe, depending on whose side are you on. Are you an ANC member who has got gold mines and diamond mines that you were given by Itim Nangagwa so that you protect him, or you are an ANC member who is looking at the prospect of ANC winning next year's election? Therefore, you need a domestic migration policy victory by securing a safer Zimbabwe, thereby gaining support from Black South Africans, which will secure another 5-year term for the ANC. So it's about personal gain for the comrades or the gain of the whole Congolese. That is what the ANC is going to be struggling with. And therefore, I'm looking at that dynamic. And if for some reason those that want Zimbabwe to be free win, then you are saying that you are seeing that SADC itself will begin to have much weight, much support. If they've got support from Pretoria, they will have much weight in forcing Harare to do things and being strategic about it and tying their demands with certain punitive measures on Harare, whether it might be demands of fresh elections or demands of a unity government or demands of a transitional authority. If SADC say we want one of these three, if you do not give us one of these three, we will block economic access, especially in South Africa. That's why I'm saying that it's very important. ANC is a very important organization to watch right now. ANC is going to be critical in the success or the demise of Zimbabwe. In that scenario, you could have a situation whereby the ANC and the South African government, as they're imposing sanctions on ZANU-PF, will say we are blocking financial flows from Zimbabwe to South Africa, or we're blocking the flow of the gold trade, of the lithium trade into South Africa, until ZANU-PF does A, B, C, D. In that case, ANC will be acting like a real big brother and will push ZANU-PF to to the negotiating table, push ZANU-PF to make some strong concessions. So that is what you are expecting to see from ANC. If ANC really sees that this kind of strategic move would be good for the ANC's performance in next year's 2024 elections, Because trust me, if the ANC keeps ZANU-PF in power with a lot of Zimbabweans, with the economic situation in Zimbabwe becoming dire, a lot of Zimbabweans crossing over the fence and coming into South Africa, the influx of undocumented foreigners in South Africa is going to be a problem for ANC going into the elections. It might be a reason why most black voters will probably move towards the Democratic Alliance. And some might go to the EFF, but EFF is also pro-foreign. But then that would be good for the Democratic Alliance, but it might mean that some people might just not vote altogether, and you will see ANC losing more metros. You might have a situation where the DA and the EFF just can do coalition government without a weaker or a weakening ANC, because in the metros that's when we've got a lot of Zimbabweans in there. So clever ANC members might read it the way I see it and begin to push the ANC to force Harare to act towards stabilizing Zimbabwe, because a stable Zimbabwe will mean a stable South Africa. A destabilized Zimbabwe will mean a destabilized South Africa. And once that can is opened, with Operation Tudula and many other operations going on in the country, I'm rating the vibe on the ground as far as South Africans are concerned. I mean, I am beginning to see South Africans that were traditionally not concerned with the immigration or migrant issue beginning to be more and more vocal. That is on the ground, meaning that something is really brewing on the ground. And I'm telling you, the victim of a immigration or migrant crisis in South Africa is the ANC. The one that will lose at the end of the day is the ANC. So the comrades in the ANC who have got economic ties in Zimbabwe that are tied with keeping ZANU-PF in power will have to make a very, very, very brave decision whether you want to keep a few gold mines in Zimbabwe and lose the elections, or you want to negotiate going forward. As I say that, I myself, if I were to be in the negotiation table, I would give the ANC comrades an opportunity to negotiate a way forward. Okay, because we do not want to be held at ransom just because somebody has got a few mines in Zimbabwe, therefore the whole country must suffer. I would make an arrangement. Okay, it's fine. What can we keep? What can we not keep? How can we move into the next chapter? So how can you be happy as the ANC in the next chapter where ZANU-PF is not in power? Because once we paint the picture that the ANC will be disadvantaged with ZANU-PF out of power, then those comrades who have got economic interests in Zimbabwe will always want to keep ZANU-PF in power for the sake of protecting their economic interests. I don't have a problem with their economic interests. I've got a problem with Idi Mnangagwa in power. Remove Idi Mnangagwa from power, your economic interests will still remain. That's all that I have to say today.